Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final MFL10 podcast for this season. We are going to wrap things up, talk a little general strategy, talk a little bit about defenses. Today we have TJ Calkins on air with us. TJ has been a long-time best baller. He is, puts in plenty of volume every year. TJ, what's up, man?
What's going on, Johnny? How are we doing today?
Just living the dream, man. And as usual, my co-host Hodge, who has been, absent on some business trips, leaving me hanging. Hodge, dude, glad to have you back.
I actually wasn't on business trips. I was just playing video games and didn't want to do the podcast. So glad we've cleared that up.
It happens. So, TJ, the first thing I want to throw at you, and we discussed this a little bit on the running back episode, but there seems to be, it's like people can't just agree on how running backs should be drafted in MFL 10s, and that, it's okay to take a running back in the 5th round. You don't have to take them rounds 1 through 4, but then you have the people saying you have to take running backs, rounds 1 through 4. And then you have the other side where, they're not taking running backs till like the 9th round. What do you think about zero RB, and what is your general running back strategy?
You want to lead off, Hodge, or you want me to dive in?
It's all you, baby.
All right, man. My strategy is 99% of drafts, unless something ridiculous happens, I am having at least one running back in the first 4 rounds, preferably one in the first round. And if you're in the, say, 8 to 12 range, you can probably start receiver, but then you're absolutely forced to take one with one of your next 2 picks. I'm actually taking Melvin over Shady in the first round. I know Johnny's happy with that. Once you get past those guys, the receiver value is just so much higher than the running back value. And it's not exactly going to help you to reach a little bit there, but you do have to get your start in those first 4 rounds. As far as zero running back in best ball, the entire principle of zero running back is playing the waiver wire for the position. In best ball, you can't do that. It's mind-boggling that people think it works. The only argument for a player to make zero running back viable through the course of what's best ball has 4 years of history now is Devonta Freeman in 2015 is the only argument for it. I was highly exposed to him, but he was my running back 3 on most of my team.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, if you want to call waiting until the 6th round to get a running back, zero RB, that's fine. I don't think that's zero RB, but I'm okay waiting on running backs, just not completely punting the position. I think running back is the most important position in MFL 10s because the gap in production between high production running backs and, fill-in guys is huge. Hodge, how do you approach running back in all of your best ball drafts?
Draft by draft. It really depends on where I'm picking, depends on who's there, who falls to me. Even last year when zero running back was a huge craze, if I had a first, 2nd or 3rd pick, there's a really good chance that it was a wide receiver just due to the nature of running backs last year. But with this year, I think you're seeing these running backs, if I have a 1st or a 2nd, it's Lev or it's DJ, and I make that decision based off current exposure. If I'm picking towards the back half of the draft, it really depends on who falls there. A lot of times I'm usually going like a Jordy T.Y. Hilton, or I'm going like an AJ Green, Jordy, AJ Green, Amari Cooper, if I'm like 1.10, 2.4, whatever it is. So it really just depends on who's there. If you're playing 60, 70 of these MFL 10s, or if you're playing 200 of them, why would you do all the same strategy for all of them? And, you know, why don't you just embrace quote unquote variance a little bit and just play it by ear? I'm not a truther one way or the other. Gun to my head, yeah, I'd probably take a wide receiver over a running back, depending on where I was in the draft.
That's fair. And I think that's important too. And that, you know, people are saying, you know, hitting me up on Twitter and they say, oh, you know, I'm grabbing so-and-so every single time in the 4th round. And it's like, even if you think he's the best 4th round pick, say it's, I don't know, Golden Tate is someone who comes up a lot that I talk with people. And it's like, I love Golden Tate. I think he should be a 4th round pick, but he's a guy that I'm getting in the 5th in a lot of drafts. So I'm just waiting until I get him there. So there's no point reaching on a guy and ending up with 100% exposure of him, especially when you're taking him early, because, you know, injuries happen.
I will say this about just kind of average ADP, about ADP, is that I prefer the wide receivers that are in that middle of the 4th, back end of the 3rd than I do running backs. So if I have an opportunity, even if I'm not super stoked on the running back, let's say, you know, in the beginning of the 2nd, which is probably a guy like Ajayi or a Freeman or a Howard, just knowing what wide receivers typically go somewhere around the 4th, which would be, you know, the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th, which would technically be my next pick. I'll probably go running back there in the beginning, you know, the end of the beginning of the 2nd and the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you're looking at guys like Sammy, Keenan Allen, Jarvis Landry, Alshon. They're all available there at the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th. There's not a huge fall off there from the middle of the 2nd round, as opposed to running back. It's a monster fall off.
And the running backs that you're looking at are Joe Mixon, Lynch, McCaffrey, Tymont. Like it really depends on what you believe in, but like, I mean, give me a guy like Crabtree, Watkins, Keenan Allen over every single one of those running backs. Like in a vacuum, give me the wide receiver over any of those running backs any day.
So, yeah, sure. Yeah, I think the drop off after like pick 24 for running back is big. And it's like, you know, I'm not a big Gurley fan. I'm not a big Fournette fan, but I think the drop after those two is legitimate. And it's questionable whether you want to lump Lamar Miller in with, you know, Gurley and Fournette. I think there's a shot that he's, you know, pretty close to those guys, but it's a drop off. I mean, Isaiah Crowell should not be going where he's going. You know, Joe Mixon's going pretty early. So the idea of, you know, taking 4 running backs in a row being optimal strategy, I don't think is correct at all this year. But
no,
I do think that you should have 2 running backs in the first 5 rounds because you have to. Yeah, you have to secure running back production.
Don't force it though. Like don't make that like a dead set rule. Like, oh shit, Proctor said I have to get a second running back here. Like, play it by ear. It's not that big of a deal to take your second running back in the 7th if you took a guy like DJ at 1.02, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's different. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the important thing to remember is just that I always call it draft capital allocation. So people ask me sort of like, how do you draft MFL10s? And I say it's all based on how I allocate my draft capital. So if I'm taking 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds, then I'm probably going to hammer wide receiver and tight end for 3, 4, 5 rounds.
Yep.
And if I take 3 running backs in the first 3 rounds, I'm probably not taking my 4th running back until like the 9th or 10th. So, I mean, is that sort of how you guys, TJ, do you follow that? Or, I mean,
I am much more willing to wait to the 5th, 6th round on my running back too. If I've got a Le'Veon or a DJ, I basically have one spot locked up, so it's easier to try to attack other positions. As far as, say, Zeke, Melvin, Shady, I think that's with Zeke's worries, that's kind of the next tier for me altogether. And then I definitely want another one by the 5th round. But I do want to take a moment to pour one out for my late running back target who died this week. And I'm 70% exposed. And it is a sad, sad week for that. Although the CJA news made it a little bit better, a little easier to swallow. I'm heavy there too.
Yeah. You know, the only way to fix having 70% exposure to Kenneth Dixon is to do like 3 times as many drafts as you've already done so that you'll only end up having like 30%. Yeah, just take Terrence West, dude. Hodge, how are you if you end up with 2 of the big running backs in the first 2 rounds? Are you taking a tight end like a Kelsey or a Reed, and punting wide receiver essentially until the 4th or 5th, sort of, if that makes any sense as I pose that question?
No, it does. Basically, you're saying like if I luck out and get Kelsey at his ADP, which is like middle of the 3rd, which I think is fine. I've taken him as early as the back end of the 2nd round, so 2.12. And I'm okay with that. Am I punting wide receiver to do that? Was that the question?
Yeah, because I feel like if you're waiting until if you're going RB tight end wide receiver, that feels punty at tight end to me, at least to start your draft. And that always scares me.
You mean punty at wide receiver?
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't mind that. I feel like I would have to go look at my current drafts, but I feel like any of the times where I've gone Kelsey, I've actually gone like wide receiver. Like it's usually been something like where I get Kelsey in the middle of the 3rd, and so in the middle of the 1st, there's really not a lot of running backs that you like there, especially if like McCoy and Gordon have already gone. So it's a tough one. It's something that I think you have to really feel out as the draft goes on. But I guess to answer that question, I'm fine doing it. And that's because, like I said, I like the wide receivers that are going in the 4th and in the 5th round. Like you said Tate earlier, Diggs is there. Snead is towards the back half of the 5th. Crabtree's towards the back half of the 4th. So I'm fine with that. Like I think that's fine with me, and I wouldn't necessarily consider that punting at your wide receiver spot.
I didn't mean to say punting. I was trying to say punty, like with a Y.
Sure, yeah. So, and that's fine because like I mean you got to remember guys like Garcon are still going towards the back half of the 6th. Like if you're telling me I had like Snead and Garcon as my wide receiver 1 and 2, but I had 2 really good running backs and Kelsey, I think that's actually a great way to start MFL10s based on the late round wide receiver that you can get with Lee and Paul Richardson and some of those other guys.
Yeah. And it always scares me doing it. I've done it. But generally when I'm starting RB, I'm like, Kelsey's not a guy I'm picking. I don't know if that's just
why he's like a wide receiver though, which I know is such a layman's lazy analysis to that, but it's true. I mean, that was the whole reason why Gronk was going like 1.12, in 2014 or whatever it was.
Best pass catcher and will lead the team in targets. I mean,
right.
It's not so much even he can do what a wide receiver can do. It's not so much calling him that. It's that every opportunity will be there for him to score with good wide receivers.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not the best person to ask that question because I actually really think I want to go all in on Kelsey this year. So that's a hard question for me to answer without a bias either.
And I'm perfectly fine with Kelsey. I just feel like at least the time I like taking Kelsey is when I start RB wide receiver and then I go Kelsey. And I just feel like I've secured.
Melvin does Kelsey, right? That's the.
I don't have much Dez, but I'm okay with Dez. I just seem to keep ending up in spots where I don't get Dez. it's like I end up with like the Doug Baldwins and the like Michael Thomases of the world in the second round. I don't know. It's just sort of how it keeps falling.
And it sucks that all the value is sucked out of Doug, man. Now, I mean, his ADP, it'll still keep you afloat, but it's not a ridiculous value. It's basically always been.
Yeah. There's like no chance I would take Doug Baldwin at 23, 22 in a redraft league. I'm totally fine with it in best ball, though. It's a tad scary.
Same question on the wide receiver. It's the easiest position to punt, or be punty on, like you said. There's just so many more options, especially once you get in that wide receiver 3-4 range. Guys that are going to end up wide receiver 5s and 6s, but they're going to, in best ball, score like wide receiver 3s and 4s. So easy to punt the position. Attack the scarce positions. Positional scarcity in best ball is a huge thing, and it's running back and tight end.
Yeah, and
you kind of said that was Zeus,
right? And although I feel as though the tight end value is good this year, with the Ebrons and the Rudolphs of the world, and I like even Greg Olsen I think is going farther down than he should be. So when it comes to tight end, if you end up with a Kelsey, a Reed, a Gronk, and Olsen, are you taking 3 tight ends when you do that? I'll pitch this just to both of you, or are you just taking a second tight end and calling it a day?
Yeah, I probably would not waste, as you call it, draft capital on a third tight end when you've invested a 3rd round pick into your tight end. I will say that I'm not fully waiting till the 16th, 17th round to take a tight end. I'm more inclined to actually invest a little bit more, somewhere around like the 11th or 12th round with like a Jack Doyle or a Kobe Fleener. Give or take, like whatever your favorite is there. I'm just saying like that was their standard ADP. Ebron's like 9.10.
Yeah.
Because I'm not taking that third tight end. We're usually like, Julius Thomas would be my first tight end in the 13th round if I'm completely punting the position. So I'll end up with like a Thomas, a Witten, and Jesse James, who's, almost free at this point, or something along those lines. I do want to protect my tight end position. I do want to make sure that I am getting points there every week. So, yeah.
TJ, are you going with just 2 when you take an elite tight end?
It varies for me. It depends on if I can get a second tight end 1 in the 10th, 11th round, guy of view like that. On MFL, it's probably more rare than it is on draft. You can get Ebron or Hunter Henry in the 11th, 12th round. It's insane. If I can't, I'm generally going to try and grab 2 guys like Jermaine Gresham or Ben Watson towards a very, very tail end.
Yeah, and Ben Watson should now be a top 15, 16-ish tight end now that as long as Crockett Gilmore, it sounds like he might be dead. So if Crockett Gilmore's dead, then Ben Watson should become move into that 15, 16 range. And he's not going to. So he's going to be someone you're probably still going to be able to get in the 16th, 17th, 18th, probably even a little later. I think he might even be going in the 19th round. On your team.
I believe his ADP is undrafted.
It's pretty far down there. That's for sure. But I think it goes to say too, like if you're taking with Kelsey, I'm less concerned about getting an earlier tight end pick to go with him. But when I'm taking Gronk or I'm taking Reed, who I think both easily outscore Kelsey on a point per game basis, but they also have much bigger health risks. So I'm taking a Gronk or a Reed. I am trying to get an Ebron or a Jack Doyle to go with them. Is that sort of we're on the same page?
100% on that page.
I think we're all on Ebron, Team Bron.
Team Bron.
So. Team Bron.
His ADP won't move, and it's funny. People are like, the same people who are touting Travis Kelce are saying, Ebron. Why would you take Ebron? He only had 3 TDs or like 1 target in the red zone. And it's like
he had 1 TD last year,
and then it's like
in his age 23 season, that was a problem for them.
And it's at the same time you're looking at like lost middle of the field production from Bolden.
Q's gone.
Huh?
I said Q's gone. You said the same thing here.
Yeah.
Bolden.
So, anyways, not going to go on another Ebron rant, but so then we let's move sort of to
real quick, unless I missed it. Watson's ADP is undrafted.
Yeah. I think his like average ADP is somewhere in the 18th to 19th round, but not many people are drafting him. So even though it's like on average, he's only drafted like a few times. I'll have to. Yeah, it looks like on average. Nope, never mind. Wrong Watson. Yeah, maybe he's not being drafted, but anyways, he should be. So quarterback. I have snagged a couple Brady shares and a couple Rodgers shares. But for the most part, I cannot stomach the third round that I'm seeing them go. Do you guys have any interest in taking a quarterback that early? I'm pretty much on my way to not touching them at all anymore.
3rd round's insane. Go ahead.
I will sentiment that with you're out of your mind if you're taking a quarterback anywhere before the 4th round. I think Breeze is probably the only guy that I would touch because he starts to fall towards the back half of the 5th round. But I'm usually getting a wide receiver there. Like it's that simple. I would much rather have Stafford at 10.10, Cam Newton at back half of the 9th. I think Rivers is pushing towards the 11th round. Like I'm so over Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, luck. I have 2 shares of Russell Wilson. Because I was just looking at all of this the other day, and the only reason that I have those is because I have Russell Wilson, Jimmy Graham hookup. So I think Proctor can probably talk about MFL10 stacking a little later, but really that was like those were pure stack plays. And I think Russell Wilson's going to be great this year. But yeah, I don't know why you would be targeting a quarterback. You're giving up so much opportunity from a running back or a wide receiver at that 5th, 4th, 3rd round where Rodgers is going is absurd.
Yeah. And if Rodgers and Brady fall into round 2 though, or not round 4, are you guys taking them when they fall? It's like I've done it a couple of times. Rodgers and Brady, if they sort of fall past their ADP into like the late 4th round, are you okay with that? I'm like, I've done it a couple of times and I'm not a big fan of it.
Rodgers. Go ahead.
Oh, all I was going to say is I strongly dislike the way that my team would look if I do that. So I don't do it. Sorry to cut you off, TJ.
No problem. If Rodgers has to get into the 5th for me to even consider it, and even then I don't want to. Breeze, especially earlier in the offseason, was still getting into the 6th, 7th all the time, and I actually ended up 30% exposed on MFL to him because of it.
So
I'll attack him every time because Brady and Rodgers were going ahead of him every time, and it was like Breeze was in a different tier or something, and that's kind of insane to me.
That's such a good point. Breeze is truly in that tier. If you guys are listening to this and you are putting Breeze outside of the tier of those 2, you are dumb. I don't know how else to say that. Like I wanted to get so much more mean, but I'm just going to say you are doing it wrong. Breeze is in that tier, and it's not even close.
I feel like Hodge stares through my soul when he does that sometimes.
I will say that I have Rodgers by himself and Brady and Breeze in the same tier. I was looking, and I just did this the other day. So I was looking at the Packers and like just their absolute disregard for the running back position this year. And then you add on the fact that if you say they're all going to be similar passers, you give Rodgers 200 to 300 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown or two. And I think it just sort of puts him a little bit above those other two because of the rushing.
I wasn't saying why like you're wrong. I think that's a sharp take.
So, but it's not by much. It's not like I think he's like a league's tier ahead of them. It's just like
it's not worth the ADP. But like if you're just gonna do it right, like in a vacuum, like put Rodgers ahead and then Brady Breeze.
Right. It's like if they were all three going in the same exact spot, I would have like 50% Rodgers, 25% of the other two, rather than splitting them three ways.
I like that. Yeah.
But so so Breeze is a guy who I have been snagging when he falls to like the end of the fifth, beginning of the sixth round. And when I've been doing that, or I've actually gotten Brady in the fifth round twice in the last week or so, which is interesting. When I do that, I'm pretty much punting my QB2. I'm taking like a Brian Hoyer type QB2, and I'm just hammering the rest of the positions because it feels especially nice to be taking tight ends and some sort of high wide receiver threes in that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 range while everyone else is going on a quarterback run. If you guys take an early quarterback, when are you taking your QB2 and sort of what are you doing with it?
I'm kind of treating it the same as like if I drafted Kelsey. Another guy that I view as a surefire mid quarterback one falls to the 11th, 12th round, I'll snag him there. I have no qualms with that. Otherwise, just play it by ear and take the value. I mean, it's all about value once you get past the into the double-digit rounds to me.
Yeah. No, that's fair. How are you pairing your QB? Elite QBs.
I'm not taking an elite QB, so I can't answer that. I can't answer that question with conviction because I'm not doing it. But I can say that you shouldn't take a quarterback that early. Like one of our subscribers at powerhourpod.com showed us his MFL10 draft, and he ended up taking Breeze really early. And I didn't want to lay into him, but I was basically just saying like it's just not the most optimal decision. I think taking one of those quarterbacks early is not the way to do it. There's no reason to when Cam Newton has an ADP of I don't know what, the 8th round. No, he's like back half of the 9th. Like,
yeah,
give me a break, man. Like, why? I just,
what do you want a QB2 there for?
What?
I said, what do you want a QB2 at that point for?
No, I'm not like that should be your first quarterback. Like you shouldn't even be touching your second quarterback until
that was Cam shade.
Yeah, well, whatever, man. Give me a break. I'm just saying, like, fine. Kirk Cousins back half, like Ben Roethlisberger is a perfect MFL10 candidate because you take his home games and you throw away all of his road games, right? So,
I just take all his Martavis games.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess I'm not taking a quarterback early, and that's just me.
No, that's fair, but when Breeze falls to the 6th round, are you not taking him?
No, I'd probably do it there. I think you're.
All right. Well, we're same page. We're same page. Nobody wants to reach on a quarterback. I mean, there's too much available.
Yeah, but they do fall in some of these drafts. But I'm not. It's like,
okay, hold on.
So excited to take Breeze.
What public draft have you actually seen Drew Brees fall to 6.0304? Right? Like, I feel like they fall anytime we do like an industry draft, but
it happens occasionally.
I guarantee you, I have 7th round shares of Breeze on MFL.
Yeah, starting in May or like last month.
Yeah, probably before May.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Like it's not happening currently. But I see what you're saying. Absolutely. If Breeze is a middle of the sixth round pick, then I think you're actually doing it wrong if you don't take him. I think that's the perfect opportunity to take a tier 1, tier 2 quarterback.
Yeah. So since we're I think we're mostly on the same page as we're waiting for quarterback. I really like the quarterbacks in the 9th to 13th ish range. So I'm sort of just been spreading my exposure, the Cousins of the world, the Rivers of the world, the Mariotas, the Derek Carrs, all those guys. I don't really have an issue with really any of them as long as they are going slightly later than their ADP. I just sort of take the ones when they fall. Are there any targets you have at that quarterback position, or are you guys sort of with me that you sort of like that whole grouping?
I definitely like the whole grouping. I think a target, maybe even a little later than that, is like a Tyrod or a Rivers, who are there right at the end of the 10th, beginning of the 11th. And I'm actually for whatever reason, I'll actually have to go check the percentage, but I feel like I've had a ton of the end of the first round picks. So I usually have those swing picks, and I end up going a lot of quarterback sometimes because the run hasn't quite started yet. And I'm okay starting it right there at the end of the 10th, beginning of the 11th, right? I think that's a perfect time to kind of start that quarterback run of Stafford, Rivers, Dalton, Tyrod, whatever it might be, because people are waiting.
100%, man. And Mariota is my target in that range.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know my exposure offhand. I bet it's about 50%. I love him. I think he really jumps to a mid QB1 this year. And games that make your basketball season good.
Yeah, no, Mariota is probably who I prefer of that grouping as well. Though I will say that I'm fairly comfortable with all of the quarterbacks going in the 9th to 12th round range. I think
it's important to emphasize that too. Just take one. Don't get stuck on one, right? Even if you're only doing 3 MFL10s, you're not a big volume player, you just enjoy the process and it's fun to get some pre-draft experience. Don't feel like you have to go, if you're doing 3, you should honestly have, 6 different quarterbacks if you're doing 3 of those drafts. There's no reason that you shouldn't. I mean, if you want to have one of the same in everyone and then vary your second quarterback, I think that's fine. But just embrace it. You want first place. So
and you still have 4. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because especially in that scenario, you're doing 3, 4, 5 drafts. One first place win is that's profit. So
right.
There's no need to have the same quarterbacks on all of them. And yeah, I think all of those quarterbacks in that range have a shot to outperform their ADP. Matt Stafford does, Rivers does, Carr does, Mariota does. I mean, Mariota is probably my favorite of the grouping, but I think they all sort of have a shot to do that. And then the drop off after that group though is insane. The Joe Flacco's,
don't be scared of Wentz. Wentz is fine.
The Joe Flacco's, the Jared Goffs, the Carson Wentz's of the world.
Oh, cut it out. Don't put him in with those 2.
But yeah, I think I mostly like to just grab 2 of those quarterbacks in that 9 to 12 range, and then maybe a Brian Hoyer if I feel like I'm getting him at a value. Are you guys comfortable with just having 2 of those?
I think Brian Hoyer is a perfect value pick, but I'll let TJ actually answer the question.
What is the actual question?
Are you fine with just having 2 quarterbacks from that sort of 9 to 12, 9 to 11 round range?
Yes. Like Hodge said, if he's on the turn, just take 2 and be done with the position. That's fine. But if you're taking your quarterback 1 there, you probably need to take Glennon and Mahomes or something crazy like that. But you should probably have a third option if you're only taking one.
I mean, in the sense that if, like, say you go like Mariota, Stafford, Carr, Rivers, something like that. Are you okay having?
Oh yeah,
those
and Dak and Cousins are in that group for me too.
Yeah,
that are fine.
I've crossed quarterback off my list at that point if that's what I did.
Yep, agree. And that's honestly what I'm doing the most. Is sort of doubling up there.
I do want to bring up one thing. I thought this was interesting. Levitan tweeted it out earlier, but it was about Marone and Blake Bortles. Did you see that? I think everyone did.
It was about what?
About Doug Marone and Blake Bortles, so I'll read the quote just for anyone who's missed it. Marone asked, how many times a game quarterback Blake Bortles will ideally throw next season? He said his answer was simple, 0. He said he wasn't joking about this, and he wasn't smiling when he said it. For me, said Marone, I'd like to run the ball every play. I want to go back to the old way. I want to change the game, Marone added that he didn't know a specific ideal number for Bortles passing attempts next season. And the only reason I bring this up is because Johnny has definitely loved himself some Blake Bortles. He's got an ADP of about round 13. It's towards the back half of the 12th round. Are you reading into that, or what are you doing with that, Johnny?
I mean, obviously Bortles is going to throw less than last year.
Sure, I think that was a given based on their draft picks, right? But regardless of the quote,
run with the leads that people think they're going to have. I don't think it's 100% etched in stone.
Yeah,
they think they're going to run the ball.
But I'm perfectly fine buying a guy who's coming off an injury season, who is down to YOLO ball it, and I'm down to buy YOLO ball quarterbacks.
And his YOLO ball wide receiver number 2, Marquise Lee.
Yeah. Do they actually have a good wide receiver group?
We're all on board there, man.
Yeah. So,
no, I
love A-Rob, but I'm also on board.
I think that quote came out and it was very polarizing, and I think people just need to not read into it a lot. And if you liked Bortles at the 13th round, you should still like Bortles in the 13th round. It's that simple.
Nothing has changed for me.
That Marone is actually an asshole. He really is an asshole. So
I mean, Marone historically does quote unquote pound the rock more than anyone else, but I do think like Bortles in the 13th is fine. Anyways, we can move on from the quarterback position. I just kind of wanted to address that since we were on quarterbacks.
Yeah, let's quickly. So, like, the only late quarterback that I'm really like taking, like Glenn, you're taking Glennon, TJ,
for a QB3 if I need one. Yeah, I mean he's going to be a starter, and they're going to be behind for 16 weeks.
You think he starts for 16?
Yeah, I really do.
Man,
oh,
I don't know how to read that one.
Busty sucks.
I will also say though, Flacco should be completely off everyone's radar. 100%. You should not touch him.
Agree.
Because whatever's going on there is weird.
Man.
Huh?
He lost his best weapon this week.
Crockett Gilmore? Yeah.
It might.
Yeah.
Dixon, new phone. Who dat, yo? No. So, no. So, I mean, the back stuff with Flacco, you should not be drafting him at all. Just don't do it. I think we lost TJ, but Hodge, when you have taken early running backs, you have, you only have 2 or 3 wide receivers through, like 10 rounds or whatever. How many wide receivers are you piling onto your team when you are quote unquote weak at wide receiver through like the 9th or 10th round?
I usually end up with 7 to 8 wide receivers regardless. It usually doesn't make a difference if I went like running back, tight end, wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? And then like running back, quarterback. I don't know. It really depends, but I usually end up with probably 4 to 5 running backs, 7 to 8 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 2 defenses, and 2 quarterbacks. I think those numbers check out, right? Give or take. That's just where I'm at. I want wide receivers in bulk. wide receivers have an opportunity of having bigger boom games than a lot of the running backs that you're taking in, you know, the 7th, 8th round, or even the 4th and 5th round. So, yeah, I don't know. Does that answer the question?
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I like the late wide receiver value like way more than I like the late running back value. So I'm definitely ending up with more wide receivers when it comes to like, is this guy going to have flex value for me? It's probably a wide receiver over a running back. You know, the 13th, 14th, 15th round Marquise Lee is going to give me more value than like fucking Marlon Mack or some other stupid running back. TJ, are you when you're weak on wide receiver into the later rounds, how many wide receivers are you hammering?
I'm gonna have 8. You can start 4 wide receivers a week and make sure you're getting some sort of points out of them. So yeah, it's going to be 8, and even sometimes if I'm not weak at wide receiver, I'll take 8. So
yeah. And now this is a question that I have got a lot, and I feel like people are asked. Like, I'm surprised they're following me on Twitter when they ask me this question, but they're asking me if they should be handcuffing their running backs. You know, if they take Spencer Ware, should I take Kareem Hunt? My answer is no. I will not handcuff on the same team, but I do if I'm heavy on a running back. You know, for example, I'm starting to draft a lot more Spencer Ware. I'm getting that motherfucker in the 7th and 8th round. Like, okay, but you know, I'm heavy on Carlos Hyde. So I'm also heavy on Joe Williams. I probably have 30% of both of them. I don't have any single roster with both of them on the same team. Are you guys with me on that strategy, or are you handcuffing? And if you are handcuffing, I'll fight you.
I'll go first, Taj. I see you're upset. In best ball, I only handcuff if it is a clear cut RB1, and there is also a clear cut handcuff. So the only handcuff I have is James Conner, to answer your question.
That's a fair one. Hodge?
Handcuffing has been dead to me since like 2013, man. Like, I
must have been exposed to Ben Tate.
The ultimate handcuff. Derrick Henry is 100% like the current Ben Tate, but
the Nile Davis,
dude. Oh my god. Anyways, yeah, I don't care, man. I'm looking at my current roster, and I'm looking at who's on the board, and I'm making decisions based off of that. It's that simple. Non-ADP related, non-MFL10 related, I am the person who blows, 70% of my fab week 1. So I don't care about the handcuff because it just doesn't make a difference. Nobody ever hits. You have D'Angelo Williams and then who? Like,
right. And the thing about D'Angelo Williams was like
Steeler running back. That's what you need to have.
D-Will was what, like a 7th, 8th round pick?
Right. Well, that's like Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's a 6th round pick, and it's like the guy in front of him is still going to touch the ball 300 times. Give me a break. Like, what are you doing? And I wasn't upset, by the way. I was actually laughing at chat. Somebody who probably doesn't know who TJ is said, and I quote, oh God, where did it go? Is the guy, is this a hitman we are hiring lurking in the shadows?
Is it Pano? I assume it's Pano at that point.
Nope. Some guy named Tube Sock 000. That's kind of gross now that I say it out loud. But yeah, I get it.
Tube Socks, dude.
Oh God.
But out of your DMs, bro.
I am not handcuffing. And I actually do not own any Derrick Henry. Nope. Derrick Henry will hands down be a DFS play when DeMarco Murray misses a game, and that's totally fine. But I'm not willing to spend a 6th round pick on Derrick Henry in my MFL10 drafts.
Yeah, and it's, I tell people this, I am handcuffing, but not on the same team, because
100% with you there.
I have no, you are not gaining any type of upside by investing double draft capital in one running back spot. And then people say, well, what if both of these guys are contributors? And the answer to that is then you're fucked, because if Carlos Hyde and Joe Williams end up being a timeshare, you're not getting RB1 production out of either of them. So, I want the running back in San Francisco. I want the Shanahan running back, and I'm drafting a lot of Carlos Hyde and Joe Williams on opposite teams, but I'm still not going to have more than 40, 50%, maybe up to 60% exposure to the pairing at the end of my drafts, because there's still the possibility that, yes, it becomes a timeshare and neither of them pay off their value. Similar to, the CJ Anderson, Jamal Charles situation. Though I think CJ is a little safer than Carlos Hyde. But I don't think the upside is quite as big, because I think it's more likely that Charles eats into his touches than Joe Williams. But that's sort of the situation.
A healthy Booker will not. That's the takeaway.
What's that?
A healthy Booker will not eat into anything. That's the takeaway.
And the best part about Booker is he isn't even healthy, so we literally don't have to hear about him ever again. Ever again. But no, we will definitely be talking a little D'Angelo Henderson when we get into the preseason. That's for sure. But
let me say one thing about Derrick Henry. If you are only playing one league, then okay, go ahead and draft Derrick Henry. Like in SFB, I drafted Derrick Henry. I have to beat 719 people to win. I need the upside.
Right, and that's one thing too.
Oh, stay away. Yes,
that's one thing too. Yeah, we lost Todd. That's one thing too that I've sort of said to people. They're like, well, Derrick Henry has such huge upside, and I'm like, well, you're only getting $100 for first place. This isn't a GPP where you're getting $1,000 for being right on Derrick Henry. But I'm not doing it. I mean, if you want to take him on 1 out of 20 drafts and you're drafting a lot of DeMarco Murray, if you are very heavily exposed to DeMarco Murray, you've got 30% or so. You're one of those people who was grabbing the shit out of him when he was like a 3rd round pick early on. And yeah, grab a couple of shares of Derrick Henry on some teams that you don't have DeMarco. But he just shouldn't be a target. I mean, and you should definitely not be taking DeMarco and Derrick Henry on any teams. That is very dumb. Hodge, you got any other thoughts on handcuffs? If not, we'll talk a little defenses real quick.
No, I accidentally hit Command Q and just quit out of Chrome, so I apologize.
Hey man,
you said defense. Can I leave now?
Hey, can you sell this, Proctor? I got some Counter-Strike to play, man. I gotta run.
Yeah. Well, we'll make this quick. We'll make defense quick. But so defensive strategy. I am not taking a defense till like 16.10, something like that. Very end of the 16th round, beginning of the 17th round. The people taking the Chiefs in the 14th round are literally insane. You guys taking any early defenses, or are you waiting? Are you with me on waiting?
Waiting.
I generally am waiting. I was heavily on Denver last year when they got into the 14th and Houston in the 16th, so it kind of burned me. I'm more waiting this year, but I'll still take Denver if they fall to the 14th, 15th round.
Is Denver the only one that you'll take?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. So I think my highest exposure to anyone in MFL10s is the Los Angeles Chargers. I have.
It sounds weird saying Los Angeles. I'm not used to it. I'm like, what? Who?
When I do tweets, dude, they're 100% still SD caps.
So true.
And that's probably not going to change. And the Rams are, still STL. But you know, it is what it is. Like when I'm doing spreadsheets and stuff, that shit's not going to change.
It's Vegas.
I mean, you know, they're always going to be the San Diego Chargers in my heart. But is there any defense that you guys are like actively targeting? That's really the only defense that I'm targeting. I think their ADP is very, very bad. I think the Patriots are another defense that's kind of interesting. They seem to fall a little bit. Any defenses that you're actively targeting, or are you just kind of scattershotting the late defenses?
The Giants. All over the Giants.
I agree with that. That's actually another one on my list. I think I have Giants, Patriots. Yeah, actually, Giants are my fourth highest owned of any player as well.
I let the cat out of the bag. Sorry.
No, I honestly completely forgot. I scrolled right by them. Chargers, Giants. Like when I go, I love to go Chargers, Giants back to back, and then call it a day at defense. Pod, you got any defensive targets? I know you're on the Chargers too, but anyone else other than that?
I think Atlanta's fine in the 18th. I like Atlanta there. I think the Jags are fine too. Like you just said, where you go back to back. Would you say Chargers, Giants? I think also going like Jags, Atlanta back to back, 17, 18 is fine as well. But really, like I'm not looking to get my first defense any sooner than the 17th round, and that's, you know, like when the Giants are there, or if you get lucky and like New England falls to the back half of the 16th, like I think that's fine as well.
Yeah, if I have a late 16th pick, 16, 10, 11, 12,
usually back to back, right?
Yeah, I'm fine just taking two defenses right there and calling it quits.
Yep.
TJ, you got any defensive targets other than the Giants?
I am 42% exposed to the Giants, and I'm actually 30% exposed to Minnesota. So apparently I'm taking them in the 15th, 16th a lot too.
Yeah, well, you're definitely not getting them there much anymore. They're starting to move up.
I haven't drafted much on MFL in the last month, so
yeah, I think the Vikings sort of are one of those teams that, you know, the casual players start to draft. I think they're like the defense 4, 5, 6. I mean, they're a pretty early defensive pick.
You know what blows my mind is Seattle is still your household defense.
Oh yeah, and what's interesting is like to start the MFL season, they are not, you know, they're not going there. And then once more and more people start to sign up and you get more of the casual players, Seattle every fucking year moves their way into a top 5.
Quarterbacks, defenses, as soon as they start playing.
Yep. To that point, Seattle is plus 9 picks over the past 4 weeks. They have moved up 9 spots in ADP.
Yep.
And it's prime time non-MFL10 player season right now, right? Like this is when everyone is signing up who isn't a TJ or a TJ, but I mean TJ Hernandez.
He means Hernandez, of course.
I met you first, and then I had to specify that the second TJ was TJ Hernandez.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know, let's say an Aaron H or a Seth FFL.
I was just going to say, I wonder what Seth's exposure is to some of these defenses. That'd actually be very interesting. Somebody who's already at 200 plus MFL 10s. I'd be curious to see.
200, I think.
No, is he really?
Yeah, 289.
Yeah, hot.
I can tell you.
Oh yeah, I guess we could. I could look. Could look Seth up. I think he keeps the same name, right?
First guys, I don't even know him, but they're at 700 and 600.
Seth's not out here trying to hide his shit. I hate people that do that.
Oh yeah,
your fucking drafts. Fucking bitches. Anyways, yeah. So
kind of bad because he's gonna do bad in SFB. Bad draft for him.
Dude, our SFB group is ridiculous. Yeah, so it looks like Seth is big on Oakland, Tampa Bay, Giants, and Chargers. All defenses that I like. Philly.
Well, I think it's important too. Tampa Bay and Oakland are both 18th and 19th round picks. So when you're looking at somebody who's pushing 300, And it's not even, is it July yet? Oh yeah, it's not even August yet. We're at the end of July.
Is it July?
So
we made it. It's July.
I think it's important, man. Like when you talk about doing lineup reviews of a lot of the sharps in DFS, like Dink and Pete and etc., you have to do the same thing with MFL10. So when you see somebody who's pushing 300 and we still have a month before the season starts, he's not taking his most exposed defenses are defenses that are going 18th and 19th. It says something. You should be waiting. It's as simple as that.
Right. Yeah. And Seth's good for sure.
And Mike Beer's data shows 3 defenses is the way to go. Wait, take 3 of them. And if you want a 20th round defense, it's going to outperform ADP. Take my hometown Brownies.
I have 20.04. I think that's fine.
I remember. I think my biggest piece of bad advice last year was that I was taking the Niners defense because of Chip Kelly. You know, they're going to run more plays, more opportunities for turnovers or whatever. Turns out they ran more plays. They just didn't actually ever have turnovers because they were just that fucking bad. So, yeah, I think you should be taking 3 defenses if you are missing on one of those later elite Ds. You know, if we want to say the Giants, the Chargers, you know, the Jags are sort of those quote unquote later elite defenses. You know,
I throw Oakland right behind them if that helps.
Right. Yeah. And if you're missing on those, then you want to take 3 defenses. So, you know, if you're not taking a defense till the 18th round, 18, 19, 20 should all be defenses. And just click them. At that point, it doesn't matter. I think Green Bay is another defense that's going super late that I think people are undervaluing. I'm always down to take a late defense with an elite quarterback. Other than that, don't really have much else to say defensive wise.
Honestly, guys, it's the Falcons in the 18th.
Yeah, no, that's another one.
Yeah.
I'll fight you analyzed by pick sixes.
You think you're saying pick sixes from Ryan?
Ryan, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge Ryan fan, as anyone who has followed me the last 2 years knows. But
we already did quarterback podcast. We all bashed him. You got to go download that and listen if you want a Matt Ryan take.
Yeah, but I do think that's like a good offense, a good, you know, it's a good team with a strong head coach. I think those are the kinds of teams that you should be looking at when you're taking, you know, a late defense. So, you know, you want to look at the Ravens, the Falcons, that kind of defense later, you know, versus, you know, the Browns, or, you know, the Titans. Titans are bad, so I wouldn't be really touching them.
Free advice: don't take the Jets defense.
Yeah, definitely not the Jets defense. Yeah. You guys got any other last minute thoughts? Any roster construction thoughts you got? If not, we will close this out and start signing up for some MFLs.
I'll say this: if you want personalized roster constructions, not only for MFL10 or for DFS, powerhourpod.com. Sign up, get a premium subscription. All 3 of us are in the chat, plus some extremely high volume players and some guys that you probably wouldn't expect to be there are all conversing about what their lineup should and should not look like. So powerhourpod.com.
Yeah. And if you have never played preseason DFS, I promise you that the sign-up cost is worth it to learn how to play because, TJ, you know, preseason DFS is
covered on preseason.
Preseason is the goat.
You can line up the second best through 10th best guys and get all their advice and still not come close to Johnny. Write that down.
Fuck yes.
Appreciate it, man. But yeah, we are doing it and we are ramping it up at this point. So the Slack chat is going to be, you know, taking the next level. We're going through the team previews. We will have Adam Levitan will be coming on to chat with Haj and I. Levitan will not give out preseason picks because he likes to hold it close to the vest, which I understand, but we're going to talk some general preseason strategy and sort of just why you should be playing preseason, where the edges exist. That should be Tuesday night, shorter podcast, and then we will be doing regular podcasts that will be just live video, and if we have time, download the MP3 to throw in up on the website for people to download, because this stuff will be last minute as news comes out for the preseason slates. It will no longer be on iTunes. And that's it. So going forward, and then we'll be back for the regular season. We'll have some guests throughout the regular season doing the normal that we did.
They'll be better than me too.
Well, I'm sure you'll be back on too, TJ. Always been a regular guest.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, find TJ on Twitter at TJ Calkins. TJ is, if you want a dynasty mind, that is definitely his strong point. At TJ Calkins, CALKINS. He writes for Dynasty League Football and 2 QBs, and he is often a tweet stormer when he decides to take a strong take on something. So he's a good follow. He is underfollowed, that's for sure. Find Hodge on Twitter at Ryan Hodge. Find the podcast on Twitter at Power Hour DFS. The website is powerhourpod.com. Sign up. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be fun. And, keep listening, guys.
Hey, the Slack chat is fun. Sign up. If for nothing else, just get.
Dude, the Slack chat has been lit, and that's for sure. And we'll be getting the big names coming in the Slack chat. Silva will be coming on to talk some preseason picks. I convinced him to not hide his picks last year, so hopefully that will continue again this year. That was by far our best week. That was a great preseason pod, and I expect it to be just as good this year. So. Can't wait to use Colin Kaepernick in the preseason for the Baltimore Ravens. TJ, anyone you excited for the preseason?
Sorry, you just made me throw up.
Dude, when he starts...
yes, I'm excited for Wayne Gallman, man. Wayne Gallman, he's the preseason moneymaker.
Hodge, you got any turd players or rookies that you're excited to use?
Yeah, I think Trevor Simeon's actually going to be a decent quarterback start.
If you have a healthy Chet Kelly, that goes away though.
Yeah, we'll see. But no, dude, preseason's gonna be a lot of fun. And if you're a dynasty guy that's listening to our pods, preseason is a chance to use your dino guys that you're never actually going to be able to use in any type of regular season football that you're holding on your roster because you think he's ever going to be relevant. Well, this is your chance. So sign up. This will be fun. And again, I'm just I'm just excited to use Kaepernick in preseason because that's going to be where the money is. I'll let TJ throw up. So yeah, find us all on Twitter. Find TJ at 2QBs and Dynasty League Football. Find the podcast at powerhourpod.com. Find Hodge also at Fantasy Guru Elite, and find my work on Fantasy Labs. And that's it, guys. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Hey.